Yeah, so basically, like, if you look across some of the sort of quote unquote best companies in the world, right? Look at Square, PayPal, Nvidia, um, Etsy, Virgin Galactic, Neo, um, CCIV, Lemonade. Um, these companies are some of the biggest growth names out there right now that people are investing in. We could go through kind of breakdown of what each of those companies do, but they have been hammered. If you look at the indexes like the Nasdaq and the S&P 500, or value companies for that matter, you will not have seen what happened. What happened over the past month was an absolute bloodbath. ARK Invest is like an ETF that Kathy Woods manages, and I think that was down like 22% at one point in time. These risk assets, and by risk I mean these
What's
assets
ARK's
that were
ticker symbol?
ARKK, and that's just a basket of funds. It's got Tesla in it, but it has like a bunch of biotech companies and a bunch of other stuff in it. Kathy Woods, I highly recommend researching Kathy Woods because she is just absolutely genius. Facebook has been relatively stable in this whole thing, but yeah, CCIV, dude, look up Neo. Put Neo in there instead of Facebook.
NEO?
NIO, NIO. Um, these companies are monsters. Twitter, same thing with Twitter, but yeah, Square.
67 billion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
300 billion.
there's been this massive sell-off in risk assets, and by risk, again, what I was going to say there is, it's not risk in the sense that these companies won't be relevant in the future. It's that their valuations had been stretched so far out in time, and so what happens when the market is expecting inflation to come, which is what we saw, it compresses the PE ratio, the earnings ratio, the denominator of the calculations that people use for valuations. And so all of these assets sold off hugely, 20-30% on average, the ones that we had up on the screen originally. Bitcoin didn't move. It just blows my mind because Josh and Ryan are way more kind of maxis, I would say, than I am. I believe in Bitcoin, but I'm very sort of removed from some of the more sort of religious sentiments of it, I guess. But not that you guys are like religious about
I'm not,
Bitcoin.
Bubba.
No, yeah, I know, but it's just incredible. It's incredible because I would have expected Bitcoin to sell off with these riskier assets, because as people are getting margin called and stuff, they would have needed to tap into their Bitcoin, but it didn't fall. And
I think
there's
I think
something interesting there, man.
well,
For real.
there's two things though, Nick, that I think. Well, there's a couple things. Number one, we did see a correction, right? We went what was the all-time high? Was it 57, 58, something like that? And we came back to 40. So we did see a correction. But I think you have to remember, look at the people that are making the large bets in Bitcoin. That's what I was saying earlier. Bitcoin is not like Tesla. It's not like Apple. It's not like any of these other stocks, these value plays or growth stock. It's not that. It's a store of value. It's a store of value, and that's completely different. The other thing that if I am I am a huge believer in the Plan B, stock to flow stuff, and he believes that Bitcoin is correlated with S&P. And Eric, I don't know if you have an opportunity to look this up, but Plan B has a really cool chart that looks at the recent Bitcoin price versus the S&P price movement. And basically what it says, if I remember correctly, and try to get me the real number if you can, Eric, but I think the value of Bitcoin based on this chart to the S&P is closer to $100,000 per Bitcoin. And basically what he's saying is that we're due for a pretty major increase in Bitcoin if the last 10 years or 12 years of data that he's analyzed of correlating the S&P and the Bitcoin price movement, we're actually due, Nick, for an even larger increase than what we've seen. So my point is with that, Nick, is if you want to compare Bitcoin to the S&P or to the stocks you're talking about, plan B would say we're not even at a point where it's apples to apples, with where the S&P has grown to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense, but when that margin call comes, people, that's where rubber meets the road, right? So like charts and emotion, things like that, they go out the window because it's not an option. You don't get to tell the margin man no. You just have to pay them. So you have to sell when people are over leveraged, they have to sell assets that they don't really want to sell, and they sell them into the pit. They sell them while the floor is falling out from underneath them, and they know it's a shitty thing to do, but they have to do it. And most people don't own things that they want to sell. They want to keep things for a long time. But what we saw was that people chose not to sell Bitcoin when the margin man came calling. That's
Well,
super powerful.
I,
There's
I think,
something there that I don't know. I'm seeing a change. I'm starting to see a change.
well, so Bitcoin went from 57,000 down to 40, almost 43,000, under 44,000.
When did that happen though, Josh?
That just happened. That was
In the last month.
in the last month. Peaked on February 21st, dropped on the 28th. So, but I think what Nick's saying is Bitcoin kept going up as these stocks were
Yes.
falling down.
Yes.
My
Well,
guess is
yeah.
they're just moving over. They moved over. They're allocating into crypto. They saw a pullback in Bitcoin and they want it on. They've seen some big players because let's be real. A lot of the talking heads, they have a sway on people, and there's more and more of them coming over to the Bitcoin side. Oh, the BlackRock guy, the Elon buying, um,
So
what you got here?
Nick, when you're talking about margin called, this is what I'm saying. I don't think you're hearing what I'm saying of that Bitcoin is being traded completely different than a traditional stock. Look what's happening here. This is the number of Bitcoin on exchanges. Bitcoin's being completely removed off exchanges. You can't remove the Bitcoin off the exchanges if you're going to get margin called. So what's happening is people are literally buying Bitcoin. A huge amount of people are buying Bitcoin. And look at this. This is as the price goes up.
I see. So your thing is they're treating it as if it was like in a liquid, like a piece of gold or something that they're storing away in cold storage.
Store of value. Yeah.
So it's
exactly.
not something that they've got at their fingertips and they're ready to liquidate. Because part of it is a risk thing, right? For these big institutional investors, they don't want to keep it on an exchange like Gemini or BlockFi or Celsius. So they're putting it in a cold storage where it's inaccessible, and so they're liquidating things that are by their very nature on exchanges, right? Like stocks. And they're leaving the Bitcoin alone, dude. That's nobody's talking about this, man. That is so interesting and powerful, and I don't know. That feels to me like it bodes well for like the longer term.
Does this
sort of
include
price
hot
action.
wallets, Ryan?
This is people taking it off exchanges. So it was on an exchange, they bought it and they took it to their own wallet. So no, this one this would be taking it off hot wallets or other exchange
This is
wallets.
great. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
but
great, man.
and I don't, and I tried to sell my point, so I don't want to like mislead people into thinking that Bitcoin people aren't going to get margin called. I mean, I think
Oh, they
Bitcoin's
do.
people are probably more highly leveraged in cryptocurrencies than in the stock market. The only point that I was trying to make is when you look at something like Tesla buying $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin,
They don't
they're
have
doing
cold storage to put it.
they're yeah, well, yeah, they do. They're taking it off the exchanges. They're not leaving it on the exchanges.
No, I'm saying for Tesla, something like a share, you can't take a share
Oh,
off. You know
exactly.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Shares, but that's the point. Like, remember last week, one of my buddies contacted me who was listening to the pod, and he was like, I really liked when you guys talked about Bitcoin being like real estate, that it's property that you own. Like, like stocks are paper, right? Just they're kind of like in theory. Like in theory, I own like last week or on Sunday, Nick was talking about like, I really like the idea of HUT MF, like increasing my holdings. I like the idea of being a strong holder of a relatively, it's a big company, but it's not a huge company. Um, and, but of course, legally that's true, but it's not like Bitcoin, like where like you own it as property and you can like put it on your okay, I guess you can order this, but you guys get what I'm saying. It's just not the
Yeah.
same. It's just not the same. Like you own this property like you would own a brick of gold. And you can bury it in your backyard if you want. You can put it in your safe. You can have somebody else store it for you. And it's a lot more usable than gold.
But
So
if the blockchain disappears, your Bitcoin's gone.
can you
And
imagine?
It's not a
Can you
physical piece.
And
It
it's
literally
gone,
lives
dude.
on a chain in the cloud or the internet. It lives out it like you don't hold the Bitcoin right here.
I
It's not, you
remember,
can't like touch it.
Josh, it was like a year ago. I posted to Twitter, and it's funny. I don't know if Matt's listening to this right now, but I think he made fun of it. Oh, uh, Zach was asking a question. Yeah, we'll get to that here. Just one quick second. But I think Matt, who sometimes listens in, was actually making fun of me about this because I said last March, Bitcoin went down to $4,000, and I put on my Twitter. I said, if Bitcoin goes to zero, I'll buy all 21 million myself. I'll set up a node in my house and my parents' house, and I'm going to keep the blockchain going. Of course, that's
I
not going
like
to
it.
happen. That's not going to happen. But that's the way people. That's the way Bitcoin people think. Like we're so convinced that I don't. I honestly, man, I don't care if it goes up in value or not. I just want to use it. I want to break away from the government. I just love everything about it from a principle perspective. And I don't think people understand that until they get indoctrinated. And once they get indoctrinated, you see what we see in this chart. And I'm going to pull it back up because um, Zach's
Wants us
asking
to explain it a little bit
to
here.
explain it a little bit more. So I'm going to pull it back up one more time here.
Dude, I do want to get into mirror.
Yes.
I know that's
So
going to take a little bit of time.
Let's do that next.
to kind of really simplify this chart down, what it means is they're taking it off of a place where you can trade it, and they're putting in a place where you're gonna just store it for safekeeping. You're gonna literally store it. That's what the gold chart, the gold line is trending down. They're pulling it from the exchange and sticking it in their safekeeping where they're not gonna be tempted to trade it. Because when it's sitting on Binance or whatever, and you're like, oh, I could just click a button and I could trade it. I could, get out of it. But if it's in your paper wallet, there's more you got to do to get it out. But your intent is you're not selling. You're gonna keep it.
Does
But
that
this
make
is a
sense, Zach?
yeah. Let's wait for him to respond. But this is a really really big deal because you can see as the price of Bitcoin's going up, you would think the amount of Bitcoin. Think about this, guys. Let's think about this logically. You would think as the price went up, there would be more Bitcoin on the exchanges. And the reason why is because people want to be prepared to sell as the price goes up. That's the logical idea. So what does this mean? what this means, what this chart is showing, is that there's a huge amount of institutional people, long-term holders, that are buying a huge amount of Bitcoin, and they don't have any intentions of selling anytime soon. That's what this says.
Yeah, it's cool. It's
I like it.
powerful. I like it a lot.
It says a lot.